Siobhan Lamb is my guest today. Siobhan is an Irish composer who grew up in London and now lives in Denmark. Good morning, Siobhan. Thank you for taking the time to talk to me. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. Good morning. Thank you for being here.
It's an absolute pleasure. Now, before we talk about your music specifically, I'm interested to find a little bit more about you. So, as the piece the ICO has commissioned is called Home, I want to ask about your own sense of home and also your sense of Irishness.
Yes, I was looking up online yesterday about what it is to be Irish and realised I was actually opening a minefield. And one of the most hated things is people that talk with accents like me and saying that they're Irish, but never mind, I'm going to get beyond that. It was a kind of the sense of home. I spent all my summers and all my holidays actually with my Irish cousins in Cork City, and the first thing they would say when I went home, everyone actually, anyone in the street would say to me, "Are you happy to be home?" And it felt like home, and I definitely feel Irish. And I grew up in London, and I have, of course, lots of lovely English friends. But I felt a sense of difference and a slight otherness, not necessarily a bad thing, but a difference. And perhaps I could also feel that when I was at home in Cork. But I sort of felt this thing about what is home and that thing of longing for it, if you like, and craving it and searching it and sometimes feeling a bit wrong-footed with it. But yes, and I thought it was a really lovely opportunity for me to put this into a piece of music, actually.
Now, as somebody who's never composed, I'm always curious to know the feelings that you go through when you've written a piece and then you have to wait for it to be heard the first time, played by live musicians. I really love asking composers this question. What's it like?
Well, I love it, actually. Generally, and often I'm conducting, so then that's a whole other process where I'm kind of having to problem solve and I'm working, but it's always very exciting to hear it the first time and feel that it's being taken away from you, if you like, in a good way. The musicians and the music is being pushed forward, and there have been a couple of times where it wasn't so enjoyable, I have to say, where I heard the first rehearsal and it was sort of like, oh my God.
Is this what I wrote?
Well, it was more like the kind of like, whoa, okay, it's more like there was sort of ensemble with attitude and, sounding kind of not quite how I envisaged. But so you kind of sigh and it's harder work. But I always look forward to it, and generally it's a great thing, and I think I can't wait to hear the Irish Chamber Orchestra perform it, because they're such a fantastic band of musicians. So I can't. That's a real honour. So I think my problem will be not getting too emotional, actually.
Oh, that's lovely. I mean, the orchestra will get really emotional as well. They're really great with new music and new composers. So, on a personal level, can I ask what inspired you for this new ICO commission, and sort of what are your main musical influences?
Well, I'll answer them separately. Honestly, the story behind this is that I'm in Denmark. I live in Copenhagen, and I had met a woman from Ireland, and we were talking to Danish directors actually. And I said, "Oh, actually, we're both Irish." And she said, "You're not Irish." And I said, "Sorry?" And she said, "No, you're not Irish." And she said, "I'm Irish born and bred." And I said, "Well, lucky you." Anyway, it was very embarrassing, actually, and awkward. And when I came back, I was writing this piece, and I thought, I'm going to write this piece about this sense. And of course, everyone's entitled to say, you're not Irish, or you are Irish, or whatever. Everyone's absolutely entitled to that. But I'm going to write this piece about my Irishness. So
That's fantastic, and
I'm quite funny.
Yeah, it's a great story. It's a really great story. And let me ask about your musical influences, because you didn't answer that part of the question.
No, well, there's the musical influences specifically for this piece are about kind of the sense of longing and childhood memories and little snapshots of songs that I remember, flavors and tastes and themes, and that's the kind of thing that is in the music. The first part is a slow introduction, and you have the sense of longing and feeling like you want to belong, which I think is something. It sounds quite romantic, actually, and perhaps it's a romantic ideal, but it's a sort of similar thing of that kind of sense of yearning. And the second is the scherzo, which is the playful kind of side, and it's got an extra quaver in it, so it's got this kind of slight idea of being maybe slightly wrong-footed, and it reminds me of I used to go to my grandmother's house in Blackpool in Cork, and the children would all make shows up, and we had to make shows up for my lovely auntie Maureen and my grandmother. And I sort of half knew them and didn't quite know them, and so there'd be tunes coming and going, and so there's this kind of slight thing of this in the second half, which is the scherzo part. But my general musical influences are like anything that I've ever liked, anything that I've experienced and I've liked. So it could be, I was in a fantastic wind band when I was a child. I'm a flute player. And so it could be Holst and Percy Grainger from that. As a flute player, it could be Debussy and Ravel. As a thoughtful, kind of moody teenager, it could be Genesis. It could be, as a dancer, it could be, it's like anything that I've absorbed, a bit like with cooking, I'd say.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah. And so you've kind of answered my next question in a way, because I was going to ask you next, what can the audience expect to hear? But in terms of kind of harmonic lyrical writing, how would you describe your music?
Well, I don't want to alienate the audience. That's first and foremost. It's perhaps I'm not confident enough to alienate the audience. I don't know. Maybe later on I'll be writing pieces that alienate the audience and say, okay, go and feel alienated. No, I kind of want the opportunity to connect with the audience, and so the music is melodic, lyrical, poetic, perhaps. There's a lot of emotion. I'm an emotional composer, and I also and can be quite a funny composer. So it's that kind of thing where I want to draw them in. I compare it to food, and if you went to a lot of trouble to make a meal and nobody ate it, I want people to want to eat and maybe want to come back.
Yeah, fantastic. Well, I'm very much looking forward to hearing your piece. Siobhan, thank you so much for taking the time this morning. I really do appreciate it.
Thank you. Thanks very much.
Our concerts are on the 10th of March in the National Concert Hall in Dublin and the 11th of March in the University Concert Hall, Limerick. Take care, and I will see you next week.